You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Today on our Weight Loss Wednesday show, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about belly fat. That's what today's show is dedicated to. We're going to talk about how it accumulates, how the metabolism starts to drop, and then, of course, how we can get rid of it. And I think this is the perfect time of the year to really be talking about this, since people are beginning to look into more serious exercise programs, maybe to get in the best shape of their life, or at least not better shape for the upcoming summer, warmer season, especially if you're where I am around New England, where the sun's just starting to come out. We just get those first glimpses that it is spring. Eventually, another month or so from now, we'll get some more warmer weather. But you know, it's one of those things that I think in general that people are a little bit self-conscious about. And so what I want to talk about is, you know, the health benefits of reducing belly fat are great, meaning there's less chance of cardiovascular disease, certain types of cancer, type 2 diabetes, gallstones. There's many different correlations with belly fat. And, you know, the biggest one is just mortality in general. But we're talking about it from a body transformation standpoint. We have to understand that in our, well, let's say about mid-20s to if not early 30s, the metabolism starts to naturally slow just a little. Now, we can keep it up through exercise, through good nutrition. We'll be talking about that today. But it will naturally start to slow. And again, we know kids today, 10 years old, 12 years old, who are already accumulating belly fat, and sometimes even younger. There's a big reason for that, and this goes now for everyone. This really is for adults as well as children. When you start to add belly fat, there are two main causes. And only two main causes. So the two main causes are higher levels of cortisol, which come from stress. Now, it can be GI-based stress, meaning gut-based issues. It can be work, life, family, school-based stress. And we all know we have some of that as well. It just depends on what level you're getting to, and then also how genetics play into it and your ability to deal with stress and the accumulation of stress. And then also viruses, infections, those things can affect cortisol as well. So we have three main reasons why we can get into that more of that survival-based state where we're going to start to accumulate more belly fat, okay? And that goes for the subcutaneous belly fat, which is kind of the softer type. That's where you bend forward and it kind of rolls up. And then there's the visceral type, which is more around the organ. It's a little deeper. It's more, again, like around the organs in your abdomen, but as well as intertwined with the muscle. And that's as dangerous, if not more dangerous, for people to accumulate. Now, there's one other reason why the belly fat and the love handles especially, can start to accumulate. And that is an issue with a dysregulation of blood sugar and insulin. So what happens is when some people eat carbohydrates, their body, and we'll talk about some of the mechanisms, their body's not able to shuttle that glucose into the cells or into the liver or whatever it might be to be utilized. And so when the sugar remains in the bloodstream, it will start to produce more adipose tissue, which are your fat cells. Now, I want to qualify something as well, is we're born with a certain number of adipose tissue cells or fat cells. And what happens is they expand, they become larger, and that's how we add more body fat, or the semblance of more body fat, because it gets larger, and then of course it does get more molecular weight to it as well. So what we're looking at is really a blood sugar dysfunction and a cortisol dysfunction. And it's funny, or not so funny, but the two work hand in hand. If you drop low blood sugar, your body produces more levels of cortisol, which produces higher levels of blood sugar, and the cycle can repeat itself. Now, if you produce higher levels of cortisol, your body's going to need more sugar, and endogenously it can create its own sugar from the liver, or it can start to strip muscle tissue, which will actually slow your metabolism, and then you'll be able to eat even less calories in the future, and you will be able to, or not so able to, gain more body fat. So that's obviously something that we don't want to keep accumulating. So what do? Well, there's a few things that we can do to actually spot reduce belly fat. Now, 2 of them I just named. So what do we have to do? And then I'll get into a little bit more of just the research, showing you some more advanced studies right here. But the first thing we have to do is somehow stop this HPA axis dysfunction. So this hypothalamus pituitary adrenal dysfunction, which also leads to a lowering of the thyroid and then increase in estrogen as well, especially in women. Now, that weight typically isn't always just around the belly. That goes around the hips as well. And that's why it's a little bit different than spot-reducing belly fat. So the first way to reduce this overall stress, this HPA dysfunction, is to figure out what parts of your life, that means psychological, meaning the world around you, how you view stress, as well as the physiological, your body, is what's going on. What's causing the most stress? Is it leaky gut, intestinal permeability, an autoimmune-based issue that's causing the stress? Or is it the outside life factors, which are school, work, relationships, all of those other factors that play in? And we have to start to change our response to stress. It's very, very important. So I'm going to get into that today. I've spoken about that previously on other Cabral concepts. And of course, I will definitely talk more about that in the future. But you can also test your adrenal cortisol levels. And a lot of people never think to do that. It's a simple saliva test. You can do it right at home. You simply take one saliva sample upon waking, another before lunch, another mid-afternoon, and then another before bed. Because a lot of people who have too high a cortisol level will, of course, start to accumulate body fat, but also when that cortisol starts to drop and drop and drop, you have less energy, you're less into working out in general. And you also crave more carbs for energy. Now, another thing though as well is sometimes people have high cortisol at night. And when they have high cortisol at night, well, then they're not able to then tap into as much body fat stores as they should be. Okay. So that's really, really important. My next point is sleep, is that it's been shown that you will reduce body fat as well as belly fat because you'll reduce cortisol levels if you're in bed for 8 hours. So we need to really get your body asleep and rested and get into that deep, rejuvenating sleep for 8 hours per night. Ideally, somewhere around 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. or 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., right around there. It could be a little bit more, but not really too much more than 9 hours, unless you're someone recovering from chronic fatigue or an adrenal-based issue. That's a different story. Okay, what else helps to reduce stress? Yoga, especially hatha yoga, meditation, going for walks, infrared sauna. All of these things help put the body into that calming parasympathetic nervous system state. And then in terms of blood sugar, what can we do? Well, please listen back into my low carb nutrition plan and how to transition off of that. So initially going on a little bit lower glycemic fruits, a little bit lower in starches, and then lose the weight that way and then be able to ramp back up as well so that you're getting in enough carbohydrates. Because remember, too few carbohydrates starts to lower the thyroid. And again, I did a previous show on that as well. So that's really, really important. And then you want to exercise, of course. You want to exercise, but you don't want to exercise to the point that your body's exhausted or that you're pushing it to its upper limit. Because when you do, you're also raising those cortisol levels. But one thing I wanted to show you how to spot reduce belly fat specifically with exercise is actually through doing abdominal-based work. Now, I learned about this many years ago when I was, deep into fitness. And again, of course, I still am today, but really going to so many conferences and the American College of Sports Medicine, the National Academy of Sports Medicine, all these great places. And what they showed was that when you bring more blood flow to a certain area that you want to burn more body fat, you start to change the receptors in those cells. So there's essentially alpha receptors and beta receptors. I don't want to get too deep into this inside of those fat cells. And what we want to do is increase our beta receptors. There's that Boston accent coming out again. And so when we increase the beta receptors, we're then better able to oxidize and burn more body fat, and the alpha will be more storage based. Well, what they found was through doing more abdominal based work, now not just crunches, make sure that you tune in for tomorrow's show because I'm going to teach you how to get better abs without any crunches. But the more blood flow, and this means more repetitions, somewhere probably around 20 repetitions or so, more repetitions around the midsection will bring more blood flow, which will also help to reduce body fat. I just read you it here. It says, a study found that blood flow is greatest around the working muscle and proved essential for fat extraction. Poor blood flow to areas such as your abs and obliques creates poor fat loss from those areas. In fact, research in the Journal of Diabetes found that adipose fat blood flow doesn't increase enough to allow for delivery of fatty acids released in your blood supply. So just showing basically that people with diabetes have a little bit more of a challenge because of dysregulated blood sugar as well. Now, this was in 2011, called Fatty Acids, Obesity, and Insulin Resistance, Time for Reevaluation in the Diabetes Journal. So please do feel free, if you'd like to look up the data and research on that, you can look and delve more into it. But what do you do then about this? Well, what we can do is we just don't dedicate an entire workout to abs. That's not true at all. We should not do that. What we want to do are full body workouts, which I'll be talking about tomorrow. But at the end of the workout, or at least at the end of a tricep, is that you will be doing some abdominal based work. Now, again, not just sit-ups, not just crunches. We're going to talk about it tomorrow, more effective strategies. But what it also shows is that doing full body interval training also helps to increase blood flow through the whole body as well as the core. And the reason is this: when you are sprinting, especially if you just go outside and do a hill sprint or an outdoor sprint or whatever it might be, you're pumping your arms and there's actually this rotation going on in your core. You don't really notice it, but what's happening is the left side's moving forward and then the right side's actually falling back. And then the right side moves forward and the left side falls back. It's almost like this soaring motion. And with that soaring motion, is you get more increased blood flow. So the combination of resistance workouts 2 to 3 times a week, some intervals after those workouts or on separate days, as well as some abdominal training after a workout or intermixed through it, that is your absolute best strategy, along with the lower glycemic plan and the lower stress-based life protocol. Those 3 things have been scientifically proven to reduce belly fat. So are they necessarily super easy to accomplish? No, but they absolutely all do work. We use them all the time in our practice in Boston. And I do want you to know, anyone who says that you can't reduce belly fat or spot reduce it, you can. Now, it's not a simple, straightforward thing because you're going to be reducing fat over your entire body. But when you start to better regulate cortisol, you start to better regulate blood sugar, and then you get to actual weight training exercises, specifically targeting your core, again, which we'll be talking about tomorrow. You're going to give yourself the best opportunity to get a nice, tight, small waist with good toned abdominal muscles. So a few workarounds are, again, doing the 3 days a week minimum of your workouts. That's resistance training with some abs, with some intervals with the resistance training. And then we're also getting enough sleep. You can take a blood sugar-based nutritional supplement with meals to help regulate blood sugar. I'll link all this up in the show notes today. So it's stephencabral.com/467. You can also test your fasting blood sugar. We've talked about that before with a glucometer first thing in the morning, making sure that your blood sugar is below a 95 on your meter. And then you can also you can either do a full weight management test, which is thyroid plus adrenal, or you can simply do a cortisol hormone-based test that looks at your testosterone, DHEA, adrenal function in terms of that cortisol 4 times per day, and testosterone, the other hormones in your body. So really, you can get deep into it, functional medicine, or you can start to just get into the practical part of it with the sleep, the lower glycemic diet, maybe some of the blood sugar regulating supplements, some of the adrenal-based products, as well as your workouts. But I'm telling you, if you do this, you will succeed because this is the way to spot reduce that belly fat. Doing long-distance cardio, it's only going to raise cortisol, which means you're going to maybe lose weight on your arms and legs, but it's still going to be around your belly. You have to follow the science and do what it says because it's the proven model to get you the results you want. And that's really what I'm just trying to share with you is I know that we're all really, really busy. So what I want you to do is just use your time wisely. This is the wisest use of your time, and it's going to get you the best results with the time that you do have. So thank you everyone for tuning into another Cabral Concept. Do hope you enjoyed today's show and make sure that you tune back tomorrow so we give you the actual abdominal based work, the core based work to really fine tune this protocol to whittle down all that belly fat so we get those abs that you want. Take care, everyone.
Ever wonder what the best sauna, blue blockers, sleep trackers, wake lights, salt lamps, or other health gadgets are? Or what about the top non-toxic mattresses, sheets, soaps, bath products, toothpaste, and cookware? Or would you like to know the cleanest choices for hemp parts, meal delivery services, supplements, and much more? I personally curated, researched, and now created a resource page of all of my top picks that continues to grow each week. These are the exact products I use in my own life, with my family, in my private practice, and they're the ones I trust. To find out all of my up-to-date recommendations and all the details, simply head on over to stephencabral.com/resources.